All right, we're gonna get started. Thank you for being here tonight. It's gonna be a fun night. I am Parker. I am the VP of Sales at Pointe, and excited for our speaker tonight. This is gonna be awesome. So I have a couple announcements, and then I'm going to intro Gabe, and then I'm going to turn it over to him, because you guys have heard enough from me this year so far. So probably tired of hearing my voice. So this training is on the mental side of this job, which a lot of our trainings up until this point have been about like the what to say. But a lot of this job is the mental side. It's difficult, right? You're dealing with a lot of rejection. And so Gabe's going to be doing a training tonight on how to handle that and how to win the mindset part of this job. So that's going to be awesome for us. So a couple quick announcements. Badge photos, please take a picture against the white wall that looks professional and send them to Theron. Please watch Slack. This time of year, this stuff is super pressing. Like if we need something from you, we kind of need it like right now. There's usually like a time crunch. So we're making moves with housing. Most of our housing is fully booked, and it's almost go time. There's some sunny days. Like today was a beautiful day, and it just reminds me that we're getting close to summertime. So
just tell them some Palisade, because you probably need about 4 forms for you to fill out.
Yeah. So if you're in Missouri, Arkansas, or Oklahoma, especially keep eyes on your Slack channel. We have some markets where we need like solicitor permits in, and we need you to fill out applications. So we're pushing applications to those Slack channels. And so if you don't have yours filled out, the rest of the team might have a permit and you might not have one. And so that'll cause some problems for you. So make sure you're on top of that. I don't know that she's gotten to Oklahoma yet, actually, but if you're on Arkansas or Missouri, there should be some stuff that's been sent. But yeah, please keep an eye on it. And then our next 3 trainings are the 27th, the 10th, and the 24th of April. We are going to keep doing trainings all the way through April for our BYU and UVU students, but we will have reps starting as early as April 1. We have like kind of a wave starting, and then April 15th we have a pretty big wave going out, and then early May it's going to be a big wave, a tsunami. So it's going to be awesome. Okay, I want to introduce our speaker. So Gabe, 2-3 years ago, was here all the time with me, and then he left us. So just kidding. But so some of you guys don't know who he is, and honestly, Gabe is a huge reason why I came to Pointe to start with. I'm a big believer that in life, you want to look for people where there's a value gap between you and where they're at. Mentors, I believe, are like so important in life. Like find people that are further down the road than you are, or down a road that you want to be going down, and follow them and do what they did to go down that road and let them help you. And Gabe has been that person for me. When I think of Gabe, I think of a person that wins just in all areas of life. There was a time like a couple years ago where it like hit me all at once. I'm like, who is this leader that I'm like following? He's an amazing dad. Like if you know his relationship with his kids, he's an amazing dad. He's an amazing husband. I've seen that. He was getting an MBA at the University of Utah and running this business all at the same time. And then he was like kicking my butt in the gym at CrossFit every morning. And I'm like, dude, I'm like just trying to keep up in one area of life, you know? So tonight, a lot of what he's going to be talking about is discipline, because discipline trumps being motivated, and it helps a lot in tough times. And he's extremely qualified to teach on this subject. So let's give Gabe a huge hand.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. I'll just remind everyone that ultimately, like, I signed the paycheck, and so you can take what Parker says with like a grain of salt, just a little bit there. But that was very kind, and thank you. Man, what a treat for me to be here with all of you tonight. We started this business like 9 years ago, and 2 years ago, our family moved from Utah County to Arkansas. to help grow some things that we're doing out there for our business. And I miss this interaction, like being with you is the best part of our company, in my opinion. And I miss this interaction. So it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to be here with you tonight. And I hope, I shared my family's here, most of my kids are here, and I let them know that like, I don't think no one wants to hear me talk longer than 30 minutes, especially them, because they hear me talk all the time. So but I hope in the next 30 minutes that like I can share some things that will help you be more successful for this summer. And Parker asked me to do just like a brief introduction. I don't really love talking about myself, but I think it might be helpful for you to know that like I've been where you're at, and that hopefully there's a little bit of credibility here for me to be in a position to maybe share some things with you that will be valuable. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. My dad was a general contractor, and like all growing up, the only work I really knew was like busting up concrete and digging ditches and like hauling lumber. And if there's one thing that my dad gifted me with, it was an ability to work really hard. And we got up early. I did early morning seminary as a student, and early morning seminary felt like a vacation because we would get up so early in the summers to beat the heat of doing construction work in the summertime that it was like, oh sweet, I'm back to school and it's early morning seminary. I get to sleep in. This is awesome. And so everyone else was like hating life, and I was like, this is awesome. So that was kind of my foundation. I had an amazing opportunity to serve a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Brazil. I loved that experience. I was in the MTC at Christmas time, and Elder Holland came and spoke to our group, and he said that every good thing that he had in his life, he could trace back to the one decision that he made to serve a mission. And that has been prophetic for me. And I probably ought to just disclaim a little bit that my daughter just got back from a mission like 5 days ago, and our whole family's been together for the first time in a way long time. And so my heart is super soft right now. So if I get emotional, it's like there's been some awesome things happening in our family, and like my emotions are like raw a little bit. So I apologize. Every good thing in my life I can trace back to that decision to serve a mission as well, and being in Brazil, and just that experience was amazing for me. I tease my wife that the best decision I ever made was to go on a mission, but she's my greatest blessing. Like, I don't think she would have looked twice at me had I not had that experience in Brazil first. And truly, like, I'm grateful that she's here. Since I'm talking about my wife, we've been married for almost 24 years, and we have 4 awesome kids. And you're here because we built an opportunity special with your summer that's built to be a springboard for you to go do amazing things with your life. But none of us would be here, and I would not have been able to create what we've built here if it weren't for her support to do some crazy things, and for allowing me to take some risks when a lot of my buddies' wives were like, take the safe route and play it safe, but we're not gonna do what looks crazy, and we're just gonna kind of play it safe and do what everybody else is doing. And I'm super, super grateful for her and for her support. And, you know, candidly, you are all being blessed because she was willing to allow me to do some crazy things when we were first getting started. So that's a little bit about me, how I got into this. I served my mission in Brazil, my mission president. Maybe this will help connect some of those dots. Was a professor in the business college at Rick's College, and he was like, you need to be in Rexburg. He's like, you'll be a big fish in a little pond and you'll love it there. And I was like, sounds good to me. And so I went to Rexburg, and my roommate, the summer after my mission, had gone and sold pest control in Las Vegas. And I went back to Phoenix and did construction, and he like tripled what I had made in the summer. And I was super skeptical. And he literally was like, here's my tax returns, here's my pay stubs. And they're all like in this little like organized folder. And I was like, you know, college. So I had like my graphing calculator for my college algebra class. And I added up all of his pay stubs. And I was like, holy cow, like he really made that much money in a summer. And it was like more than I was hoping to make when I graduated from college. And it blew my mind. But when I saw that the money was real, I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. And so we packed up and went out to told my family, like my grandma was like, he's selling fertilizer in California. And I was like, that's not exactly what I'm doing, but they, like, my family thought I was a little bit nuts, but we went out and it was an amazing experience. I liked selling. I was decent enough out of the company I was working for, let me build a team. And I fell in love with leading and teaching people how to sell and creating cultures of success. And I've been super blessed that like a small team that summer turned into like bigger teams that turned into regions that ultimately have turned into companies. And I think that early on, like I was introduced, I had some good mentors myself, and the idea of like developing people, creating opportunities that were based around like service, about creating value, has been kind of like my core values. So this idea of like build, create, and serve have been core to everything that I've done professionally. And as we've developed people and created those opportunities, it's been amazing to watch the fireworks happen. And so that's kind of been what we've been doing for a long time. About 9 years ago, a company that I and some of us, a group of partners, had built was purchased by a Fortune 200 company. They liked the sales organization that we had built, and they wanted it for their in-house sales team. They'd spent millions of dollars trying to duplicate what we were already doing as a third-party contractor kind of for them, and they couldn't. And so finally they just said, this, we're wasting time and money. Let's just have these guys do it for us. And so they bought our company. And as an entrepreneur, it was a dream, right? And then like once they purchased us and had control of what we built, it became a nightmare really fast because our core values 100% didn't line up. And their mindset was like, let's create as many accounts as possible for the least amount of money possible. And if our people don't like the opportunity that we're creating, we'll just get new ones next summer because they're students. And as the person that was responsible for making commitments and building the teams, it just didn't work for me. I wasn't willing to recruit and make promises and build teams around like this platform that I just couldn't believe in. And so I left. I had equity on the table. I had a great opportunity there. Again, we just been purchased by this Fortune 200. And I had this expertise in developing sales organizations. And I had a really good friend who, about 7 years before that, he and I had sold pest control in the same office in San Diego. And we had kept in touch all kind of through the years. And he started a pest control company up in the Pacific Northwest. And he built an amazing service platform. And so really through the hand of God, we reconnected at the perfect time. And he was looking to expand and I was looking to leave what I was doing. And we were up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in the fall. And we're like, we're gonna do this. And I'll tell a little bit more about that as we get into my presentation, but we partnered 9 months ago. And because of my past experience, I was very intentional that we wanted to do something different when we started this. And we've worked really hard to create a culture that hopefully you find to be a refreshing alternative to some of the other options that are in this space. It's not by coincidence that you know what I'm talking about. We've done this by design, and I'm hoping again, that if you're here, it's because you're planning on taking advantage of what we've created, and that you'll do something special with the opportunity that we have. So with that, let's kick into like maybe some thoughts that I want to share tonight. And I'm going to start with a quote from Russell M. Nelson. Can I get a volunteer to read that loud? Thanks, Tanner.
Absolute truth is completely dependable. If you adhere to the laws or truths that govern any particular behavior, discipline, or activity, you will achieve the outcome you desire.
So I know that's kind of a lengthy quote. I want you guys just to soak that in for just a second. Any thoughts, like if you were just to kind of condense this down, like what does this mean to you? What are your thoughts on this? Tell me your name.
Yudochi.
Please.
Kind of like if you want something, you kind of got to analyze like what goes into getting that thing. Kind of work towards it.
Yeah, I love that. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, so I feel like
So like in a race, everybody has the same goal. And so it's not always about the goal you have in mind that it's just gonna come to be. It's the practices that you put in before the race and the principles that you live by and the routines you have before that race. It's not so much the goal, because everybody has the same goal.
Yeah.
And so it's those principles that you live by that are gonna help you get there.
100%. Any other thoughts? These are both great comments, very applicable to what we're gonna talk about tonight. So, Russell Nelson, before he was doing what he does now, was a heart surgeon. And he was like cutting edge on like learning how to like do open heart surgery. When he first became a doctor, everyone said, if you touch a human heart, it will stop beating and you will kill your patient.
I went all the time. I just
Try to touch
didn't do
a
anything
heart,
the whole
like,
time.
you won't be a doctor anymore.
Abby, guess what flower this is?
He started like, he was on the team that was like,
No
you think
idea.
that we can figure this thing out? And they did.
I don't know flower names.
Was there are laws and
Yay.
truths that govern how the human body works, and if you just learn the truth and apply it, live by it, then you can get a predictable outcome every time. And based on that principle, he learned the truth about how the heart works. And now people have like heart transplants because of like the truths that he learned like 50 years ago when he was like discovering how to do open heart surgery. It's amazing to me that this principle can be applicable to anything, right? He's like, and I love if-then statements, like if you do this, then you can have that. Like if you will adhere to the law or the truth that governs this thing, then you can have the outcome that you desire. And that's 100% true about everything, like, because truth is completely dependable. So I'm hoping that tonight we can talk about some of those truths, some of those laws, some of those principles that govern success. And even though I'm going to create some applications that are very specific to what we do as a business, I hope that you can see on a broader picture that like those principles are going to be applicable in everything that you are doing. So we talk about the 3 pillars of success. These are kind of like 3 truths that we found that regardless of who you are or where you come from or like what your major is, if you bring these 3 things to the table, if you'll obey these truths, you can with a high degree of certainty expect successful results from the model that we've created. It's work ethic, it's skill set, and mindset. Like those are the foundation. When we find people that are willing to plug in and really do the work, that will like really like master the art of communication and persuasion, and that bring the right attitude, the right thinking to this model, that's where you will win in our program. Like every time, because it's dependable. Like anytime we see a guy that's not winning in our program, it's because one or more of these 3 laws aren't being applied properly. So knowing that, I would hope that every one of you would be like, it's a pretty simple recipe. Like, I am going to be the hardest working person in my field. And I'm going to master the art of communication and persuasion, because there's laws that govern communication. Like, there are laws that govern like persuading and influencing. And if you learn that law or that truth and then you apply it, you can get a very predictable outcome every time. And then I would copy, if there are people that are thinking a certain way that are getting outcomes that I want, I would adopt their thinking patterns too. So we're gonna, again, hopefully that like this will come together by the end of the night. Anybody familiar with the law of the harvest? By show of hands, if you know this law, man, what are they teaching kids in school these days? Okay, what's the law of the harvest?
That you reap what you sow.
100%. You reap what you sow. What does that mean? I know we're not an agrarian society anymore. We don't farm. Hopefully what does that mean? Yeah, you get, so like, let's test it, right? Like, if you want good grades, you gotta study, man. Like you gotta show up and you gotta do the work, right? If you want a healthy body,
Work out.
like, yeah, you gotta work out and you gotta like manage what you're putting into it, right? If you wanna build wealth, you gotta create value. Right? Like, and you gotta put that, like, there's laws that govern that. If you want a relationship with God, you have to do the spiritual work. Like, there's just like, that law of the harvest is like you reap what you sow and you 100% cannot expect to harvest what you're not planting. Like you can't cheat this. You can't rob it. There isn't like a hack or a shortcut. Like you have to obey that law. And if you will, like then with predictable results, like what you sow, you get to harvest and you get to control it, which I think is amazing, right? So as we talk about the law of the harvest and as we talk about specific applications to the summer, what do you want to accomplish or harvest this summer? Do you have like, are you clear on like what you want to accomplish? What you want to get out of doing a summer of selling pest control? Like my first maybe advice for tonight is that if you're not clear on this, get clear on it. Goals are important and it's not a goal, it's a wish unless you've written it down. So that would be my first maybe tip of the night, right? Then the next question that I have for you is what are you willing to do to make that goal a reality? Because anything that's worthwhile in life has a price. Because there's this amazing principle called the law of the harvest that you can't cheat. Like it's 100% connected. So what are you personally willing to do to make the goal that you set a reality? Now, let's get real a little bit, right? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So we see lots of guys that are like, dude, I'm gonna make 6 figures this summer. And then this happens. Oh, hold on. I gotta cue this up really quick. So this is my son Hunter, who's here, not to embarrass him. Mad respect for him as right out of like his junior year in high school, he went to Chicago to go sell pest control door to door. He'd grown up around our space and like since he was like 15, like my 15-year-old now, he's like, hey, when are you gonna let me go sell? And I'm like, not yet. And finally, when he was 17, I'm like, okay, let's give this a shot. This is his very first door ever. And you'll hear that his pitch, especially for a 17-year-old kid still in high school, is money. He does it exactly the way that we show it. So you guys listen.
What were you doing?
Darren?
That's not, yeah, sorry.
Okay, we go. So he says, hey, we're doing a bunch of work in the area. Has anybody been by to let you know what's going on? And she says, nope, don't care. Bam, and slams the door. Just like that. So everybody's got a great plan until they get punched in the mouth. My question for you is what do you do when you get punched in the mouth? Because it's not necessarily a question of like if you get punched, but 100% like if you do this job, there's going to be a day when you're like, I'm ready to go home. And sometimes that's like back to the apartment, but sometimes it's like, I'm going back to Utah because this freaking sucks. So what do you do when you get, how many of you as veteran reps know what I'm talking about? Can like, if you're being honest or like I've been there. So like that is 100% real. I'm gonna not to embarrass my daughter Jenna, but right out of high school, she came and sold for us. And she grown up around this, she'd watched her older brother do it. She knew what she was getting into. And then like 2 weeks.
No, I knew the bud.
Okay, a month into this, she's like, I get a call and she's like, I'm ready to come home because this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. Right? In essence,
No, that's true.
there's a little more to it maybe, but at the end of the day, that's what it boiled down to was that this job is actually really, really hard. And having people say, nope, don't care, 100 times in a row, actually kind of sucks. And it can be hard on your self-esteem, and it can start to erode when you were like, I'm gonna make 100 grand this summer. Like every time you get told no, there's like a tendency for you to be like, well, maybe it'll be 90 grand. Maybe I'll sell for 80. And then pretty soon, by the end of the day, you're like, man, I hope I can pay rent by the end of the month. Like that's the reality of what happens when you get punched in the mouth by the doers. I'm veteran reps, am I lying? Or is that real? Okay, that's real. That really does happen, right? So here's the thing. When you get punched in the mouth, you have to renegotiate your effort, not your goal. Tell me what that means to you. And I'd like to hear from my veterans first. Because you've done this. So what does that mean? Martin?
Yeah, for me, it's like I don't know, looking at my reflection a little bit and seeing what my inputs were and why I'm getting those outcomes, rather than changing my goal. I need to change what I'm doing right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna dissect that a little bit because there's some things about Parker's mindset. There's a reason why he's a top 10 rep, and there's a reason why he leads an organization at a high level. Because, and maybe second tip of the day is that you will be much more effective if you are focused on the inputs, the things that create the outcome, than you will be then being focused on the outcome itself. So like, this is like classic Craig Manning, fearless mindset, fearless mind. He's a sports psychologist down at BYU. Used to, I don't know if he still coaches at the women's tennis team, but his concept is like, if you're in a tennis match and you're trying to like be a national champion, if you're thinking about, man, I hope I win this match, then you're not thinking about the things, you're not focused on the things that will actually help you win. By focusing on the outcome, you're setting yourself up to miss what you're actually working on. Way more powerful to say, what are the inputs that I need to be focused on right now? By focusing on the things that you can control, you're way more likely to get the desired outcome. Sure. What else?
To me, it's like every single door is a new door.
Yeah.
So like you get punched in the mouth on one door, you have to kind of just shake it off, just clear your mind, and then the next door is a brand new person. They don't know what happened on the last one. So if you kind of reset, then that's how you can reach your goals for sure.
I love that. Thank you.
This thought for me is like, you know, we do like role plays and have nights like this where we're like doing these role plays with the customer, and the person we're doing the role play with is like usually pretty nice. It's like our friend. They're like a pretty soft door. And you get out there and you get like some Karen that's like super rude and like has, you know, wants to destroy you. And then also like it rains and it's hot sometimes. And like I'll get reps that call me the first couple of days like, hey, like it's raining out here. Like, we still do this in the rain. Like, and like the truth is like the pay scale doesn't care whether it's raining or not. Like you got to go put on the revenue to hit your goal. And so sometimes effort means like, it's simply like, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to knock in the rain? Are you willing to take a no from a mean lady and then understand like, well, the next door has nothing to do with that lady. So it's the temptation is, okay, because some people are ruder than I thought, or because it actually rains sometimes, like maybe I should lower my goal. But the truth and what needs to happen is, okay, I just need to go do some things I didn't really think I had to do. I have to go get tougher. I have to go, you know, raise my standards, and then I can still hit that goal.
I love that. Any other thoughts? Tim, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same thing everyone else has been saying. This reminded me though, Cam Cheney said this one time, but every morning he looks in the mirror and he says to himself in the mirror, I'm gonna outwork you today. And it's not him saying, you know, I'm changing my goal from 300,000 to 200,000, or I'm gonna sell 4 instead of 5 like I had yesterday. It's how am I going to compete and raise that effort and negotiate that effort to, you know, doing something higher than I did the day previous so I can hit those goals? Because the goal didn't change, it was what he's doing that changes.
Love that. We talked about effort, right? You got to renegotiate your effort. It might mean, in fact, last week, I'm at a sporting goods store picking up some things with that for one of my kids. And I like talking to people. I like people. I'm curious about people. And so I start talking with the cashier and I'm like, hey man, how you doing? You having a good day? And he's like, oh man, I'm almost done. He's like, only 2 more hours for my 6-hour shift. He's like, I'm on my grind. He's like, but I'm building character. And I was like, good for you, man. Like, I'm glad that he's, you know, he has a job. But like, because of who I am and because of what I do, I'm just like, buddy. Like, so on the one hand, like, I'm glad that you are where you're at and that you at least have a job. But like, what you're doing is literally sitting behind a cashier, just like sitting there. And it was like a pretty slow day, honestly. And there really wasn't like a lot of grinding going on there. And I relate that because sometimes what we think is hard work isn't actually really hard work. And there's a legitimate price that has to be paid. Like, you don't just like show up for the summer and do the bare minimum and just magically make $40,000. Like in America, like the average household, not like one person, but the average household makes like 50K in a year. So if you want to go make 50K in a summer, you're probably going to have to do like a year's worth of work in 4 months to make that happen. Now, this is an amazing opportunity and we bring real value to the marketplace. And rather than the pest control companies that we represent spending millions of dollars on pay-per-click ads or flyers or commercials or all the other traditional marketing methods that happen or that are out there, because of we're really good at what we do, they pay college kids $100,000 in the summer to go create the same kind of accounts that they are, or better than what they could get from a pay-per-click ad or a pay-per-click campaign. Does that make sense? So you're providing very real value into the marketplace, and most people aren't willing to go knock in the rain. Most people aren't willing to take 100 no's to get 1 or 2 yeses in a day. And candidly, of those that like would even be willing to, there's an even fewer pool that can. That's just the reality of it. And so because you're doing something that's very valuable, that not a lot of people are willing to do, you have an amazing opportunity to earn something special, to do something different. But in order for that to be real, you have to work hard. And you have to be looking at this opportunity because the pay scale doesn't care. And because we don't get paid for just like walking around the streets, whether it's raining or not, we get paid for creating new accounts. And so the best reps that I know are the guys that are like, I'm one of my favorite reps of all time. I went out to knock with them and he was like literally like hopping over hedges and like hurdling like flower beds. And I'm like, Jared, what are you doing? And he's like, man, I've done the math. Like I'm saving 30 seconds between every door by cutting. He's like, that's like 3 extra days of knocking. And I was just like, this kid has an elite mindset. Because most guys, he's like literally like, how do I get more days in my summer? And you as veteran reps know that most guys are like, do I have I knocked my minimum 7? Can I go home now? Like there's just a difference in like that elite mentality of like, how do I suck like every ounce of opportunity out of this opportunity? That's what hard work looks like. And you can't cheat it. Like learning how to do this pitch in a really, really good way, like the layers of like, not just what you say, but how to say it, and then how to stand and how to position your body. And then to allow, like to know that so well that you can do it while being yourself and being personable and connecting with people. Like that takes work. That takes effort. Being able to negotiate every objection that you could possibly have someone throw at you, regardless of what it is, whether it's I already have a service or I'm not seeing any bugs or whatever it is that like they throw at you, like having the skill set to be able to take that objection and to navigate it in a way where someone wants to buy from you takes work. I'm guessing that many of you like served missions, and you know that as a missionary, your purpose is to invite. And I'm guessing that you probably know from personal experience that like the invitations that you were extending at the beginning of your mission weren't the same invitations that you were extending at the end, right? Now, you might have been like still inviting people to get baptized or to live the law of chastity or to like live the word of wisdom. but the way that you invited in the beginning was probably way different than how you invited in. Does that make sense? And it's because you learned that there's there's a less effective and a more effective way to do that. And when you do it effectively, you invite in a way that people actually want to accept it. That's because there are laws that govern communication and how we persuade. How we talk to people matters, right? So putting forth the effort to learn how to communicate in a way that actually helps people want to accept those invitations will pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars if you will pay the price to learn. And that's not just if you're like wanting to be a career salesperson, right? Because like, if you don't want to be lonely on Friday night, like you better get good at invitations. Right? Like if you want to have a good career in whatever your long-term career is going to be, like you better get good at like presenting yourself in a way that makes people like appreciate who you are and want to do business with you. Like if you want to be a successful parent that like actually guides your children in a way that like they make good choices, like you better get good at influencing how people think. This isn't just like a sales thing, right? Like learning how to communicate effectively, learning how to persuade, like is a powerful skill to learn. And you can't just like memorize this like 30-second pitch and then expect to go make 40 grand in the summer. It legitimately takes effort. So when you get punched in the face this summer, I hope that you remember this. And you're like, man, this is actually hard. And so I need to put more hours in the day. I need more doors knocked in the day. I need to talk to more people so that I can practice in real time and get better. Does that make sense? We good on that? Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to share maybe like 4 more ideas on just like some things that I've seen in the course of doing this, like that are like, this is what elite people do. And the first one is, this is one of my favorite quotes. Julius Caesar, I don't know if you guys know, but the Roman Empire like actually went from Rome all the way to Great Britain. And like Rome controlled Great Britain for a long time. And when they went there, like Julius Caesar said, if you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats. Because like the people that were native to Great Britain were really scary and really tough. And the Roman soldiers were legitimately and rightfully scared for their lives. And Caesar knew that if his army had wanted a fighting chance to actually conquer that island, that they had to be in a do or die mentality. That there wasn't like an option to retreat. And so the first thing that I would invite you to do as you get ready to go out to this summer is to reevaluate your level of commitment. And are you prepared to burn your boats? Because if your hand is like on the back door, you're never going to generate enough power to go actually do this summer. If you're looking at the exit strategy already, or like, what's my plan B and my plan C? And there's not the level of commitment necessary to actually learn how to do this job well and to do it at a level that you can. You just can't. It's not possible. So I would invite you first and foremost to jump in all the way and burn your boats for this. And then maybe just Parker's not going to like this because his job is to build the teams. But honestly, like you should evaluate like where you are at this commitment level and where you're at with like your ability to go work and your ability to like learn this skill and where your mindset is. And if you're like legitimately not able to look yourself in the mirror and say, like, I'm in and I'm all in and I'm burning my boats and I'm not coming home until I win, then you probably shouldn't like go to beginning. If you just like, honestly, like it's better for you and better for us that you don't, unless you're 100% committed to like do this and do it like with your whole heart and soul, that you're committed to do it to win. Veteran reps, can I get an amen? Amen. Okay. Let's go. Second thing, this is one of my favorite authors. I love this guy. His name is Jocko Willink. He's written a couple amazing books, and like we quote him in our house all the time. And one of my favorite quotes is that discipline equals freedom. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. What does that mean? How does discipline make you free? Jen,
One of my favorite quotes is there's the pain of discipline and there's the pain of regret. And either way it's painful. But if you have the pain of discipline, then you get the mental freedom.
can you tell me what that's looked like in your life in practical application?
I know both pains.
As we all do.
And the more you experience the pain of regret, the more hungry I think I've become for like the pain of discipline. And I think remembering the pain of regret like really motivates me to have this. And that freedom is like so worth it. So
Love that. Any other thoughts on this? How discipline equals freedom? Jackson?
Yeah, kind of on what she says, it's a graph and it's got two lines, one pointing up and one pointing down. The one pointing down, very top, it says regret, the one pointing up, the very bottom, it says discipline, because regret is a lot easier to take that pain initially. It's a lot easier to just kind of like go along with the flow, but discipline is at the bottom because it's a whole lot harder. So a lot harder to discipline yourself at the start, but the reason the arrow is pointing up in discipline is because at the very end, it ends up becoming easier because you put yourself through the hard work now, so you don't have to later.
I love that. I think that this holds true in like in every aspect of life. This is one of those like laws or truths that is universal, that if you learn to apply it, then you're going to get that outcome every time. You can apply this to academics, you can apply this to fitness, and you certainly can apply it to sales. And so I'd love to hear from our veterans, what are some of the daily disciplines that you have built into your summer routine that have set you free as a sales rep?
When I first came out, during last year, I came out not knowing a ton just because I joined super late. And so I felt like I was really behind on the training. So what I did every morning is I just practiced for about an hour each morning. I probably got up like 6 or 7 just to get going. And that helped me over time be a lot more effective in my sales, even though everyone I sold with had a lot more experience than me. I just decided to put in the work and that paid off.
I love that. Thank you. What else? Carter.
I think it's a pretty simple one, but the summer makes you extremely tired. And so in the morning, you're going to want to like sleep in more. But I've learned that like sticking by a wake up schedule, no matter how tired you are, is going to actually benefit you, because you're not going to go into meetings groggy, and like you're going to go in alert and ready to learn from your leaders and ready to go kill it.
I love that. And I would add an additional discipline that that's a powerful discipline, but if you are cheating the front end of that of when you go to bed, you can only do that for so long without it affecting you in a terrible way over time. So the discipline of getting up no matter how tired you are, but also the discipline to go to bed at a reasonable hour, so you're actually taking care of your body and mind so that you can be at peak and optimal performance when you're out on the doors. Like the guys that do this the best treat this summer like months like as if they were professional athletes, and they're like protecting their mind and body in a way so that they can go maximize the opportunity of those 4 months to earn as much as they can. And you can't cheat like biology. Like you can only like, and I know you guys, I'm an old guy now, and you guys are young and you like do it right, but like in this environment over like you just can't abuse yourself for that long of a summer and expect to be performing well. And if you will have that discipline over time, it will make you thousands and thousands of dollars. So thank you for that one. What else? Disciplines of the summer that have set you free. Parker and then Carter.
For me, it would be positive self-talk. So when I was sold back in the day, all my summers, every summer I did this. I would carry around a white piece of paper every day, and I would feel like naked without it. I had to have it, and in between doors, I would just write positive things about my life, my family, all the like the gratitude, the positive things that are happening that day. Like I'm gonna sell my next door. I love my wife. I love my family. There's so many negative things that are hitting you in the mouth every day. But you have to combat that with positivity, and so that was a discipline that helped me a lot.
So my thought was actually the same thing. Becca Colson was top rookie this last year, and she was very methodical about her journal writing. I hate journal writing, so I'm making that a priority this year because I saw, like, if it worked for her, she's a top rookie, and she's writing down those positive things like Parker said, like it can work for all of us too.
Well done. Any others?
So when I sold, at the end of every day, I would write down what I learned, and I made a challenge to learn something different every single day of the summer, whether that be a new sales skill or just things about myself, different things like that. And I feel like that drastically helped me improve my technique. And now I have a whole journal of like skills that I learned over the course of the summer.
Fantastic. I love that intentionality. Any others? With this point, I just want to add that we're going to teach you some very specific daily disciplines, and some of them are going to be very specific to the summer, but many of them are going to be like what you do with your morning routine and other parts of the job that maybe don't make a ton of sense. Even things as like dumb as like dropping pins like on the app to keep track of the homes that you've talked about, like the responses that you're getting. There's going to be some things that we ask you to do that maybe feel like busy work, that are tedious, that are part of the daily discipline to help you become the best rep that you can be. And I invite you to lean into those disciplines and embrace those laws, those truths that we're teaching you that are proven to give you the best opportunity to get the most predictable outcome out of this experience. It makes me so crazy when I see reps that are like, they've made the sacrifice to show up, they're out there, but they're only like doing half of like the actual process. And then they're like wondering why they're not getting the results that they want. Like if it's built into our program, if there's any hint of us asking you to do it, like lean into that with like everything you have and make that decision one time. Because if every time you drive out to area, you're like, dude, like, am I gonna get out and knock right now? Or every time you like have conversation about lunch with your car partner, you're like, dude, do we just pack lunches or are we actually go to like a sit down restaurant? Like those kind of stupid decisions, like over time will exhaust. So make that decision once and then lean into the discipline so that when the motivation starts to wane and you don't feel like doing the work that's required anymore, the discipline will kick over and it's habit. And you just go do what you do to be successful. Any other thoughts that you want to add on this one? Bart, you get the last part. Oh, okay. I want to talk just briefly about the power of purpose. Anybody familiar with the story of Sleeping Beauty? You guys like the old Disney Sleeping Beauty, right? You guys know that fairy tale? Mm-hmm. So you've got the prince, and he wants the princess, he wants to save her, right? And we all know, like at the end, like he gets to wake her up with a kiss that's magical. But in between the prince and the princess is what? There's like some challenges there. You guys remember?
Dragon, right?
So there's a dragon, and before the dragon, there's even something else. There's like this hedge. And the closer he gets to like the princess, like the sharper the thorns are and the bigger like the hedges grow, because it's magical, right? So it's like the closer he gets, like the more they grow. And then like the dragon's this big like fire breathing dragon, and the closer he gets the dragon to try to slay it, like the hotter the fire gets. Right? Like that, like you see that pattern in like stories over and over. Like Hercules wants the golden fleece, but there's like a dragon at the bottom of the tree and its eyes never close. And so like if you kind of see that pattern of like the closer you get to your objective, the more challenging it becomes. Like that pattern exists over and over. And so if you're the prince and you're going to slay, you have to like fight through these like thorn hedges and then go slay a dragon that's breathing really hot, like melt your shield fire. Like, would that knight do that, do you think, or that prince do that if there wasn't like the princess and there wasn't a kingdom and there wasn't the gold? He'd probably be like, I have an internship, or my parents really want me to like stay home this summer, and like all the excuses that we hear from people that are like, have other reasons to go do something other than what you guys have decided to do with your summer. And the reality is you get out there, and when you get punched in the face, like I would liken that punch, right? So, like that's the fire breathing dragon. And if you're like serious about getting up and actually slaying that dragon day after day, you better have a pretty significant why. Like you better know your princess. You better know the kingdom. You better know like the chest of gold, like whatever it is that it is you're fighting for.
Or your friends, well,
Yeah, or your prince, ladies. Chest of gold, they're not like, they're just chest of gold. But you better know what your purpose is, right? And so like, I would, you think about getting up every day and getting told no 100 times a day to go reach your goal, to go make it a reality. Like if your like purpose, right, is like, man, I really want to get through school debt free. Like that's a worthy goal, right? But let's be honest, man, like I've never like seen any prince like charge into the battlefield being like tuition. Dude, it's just not enough to get you going, because when push comes to shove, you're like, well, there's this like Pell Grant thing and like interest-free student loans, right? Like I could pay them off later. Like you will rationalize that why away when it gets hard. Like you just will. So if that's like your why, like that's maybe a good place to start, but there better be something like higher and way more powerful in your purpose to do this. And I would argue like if you're like going like toe to toe with someone that's like tuition, like, and someone else is like, dude, I'm buying my next house because I'm committed to $1 million portfolio before I graduate. And I'm committed to the house hack life that Parker teaches. And like, I know that like, this is my plan. And the reason that that's important to me is because I want to be financially independent by the time I'm 30. And that if I do this right, I can build capital that buys assets, that create passive income, that create freedom for me to go do what I meant to do with my life, rather than plugging into a rat race where I live paycheck to paycheck for the rest of it. That's what this platform is built to do. And whatever that's for a lot of our top producers, that's their why, right? Is ultimately it's that financial freedom to be able to build the life that they want to build their life around, so they can go focus on the things that really matter to them. But whatever it is, right? Like I've also seen guys that have been highly motivated by like a new motorcycle at the end of the summer. So whatever it is that like pushes like your buttons and gets you fired up, like you better find out like what your purpose is, and it better actually be good enough to get you up and pumped in the morning. Like I know that for me personally, if I'm like not super stoked about getting up and getting after it like that day, like immediately I know like I'm disconnected from my why right now. And I need to go reevaluate what my purpose is, so that when I get up in the morning, I'm stoked about life and I'm excited about what I'm pouring my energy into. One of the best exercises that I've done, blank sheet of paper numbered 1 through 100, and taking however long it takes for you to find 100 reasons to go do what you're going to do this summer. Because who do you think is going to be more effective this summer? The guy that has maybe 1 or 2 reasons, or the guy that has 100 very clear purposes to go do it? So that like, no matter how hot the dragon's breath becomes, you have enough reasons to get up and go fight the dragon every day. There is power in having very clear purpose. Okay, last thing. Man, I invite you to dream big. Like, there are people in our organization that are making deep 6 figures every summer. And they're not like smarter, they're not more handsome. Like they don't like there's no like this weird thing that they're doing that you don't have. Probably the only difference between them and you is that they believe that they can, and they expect that they should, and so they go and they do. Like that really is like over and over and over again. We're like, that's the difference. Like some of our reps are just like, okay to like, I got one today, sweet. And I'm cool to go make like 30 grand this summer. And some guys are like hell bent on, if I'm not bringing 3 to 5 home every day, like all day, all summer long, like I'm falling short. and then they reevaluate their effort and they go back to battle. And it's just a matter of like, what are you willing to settle for from this opportunity? And like, if you're going to make the sacrifice to do it, like, what's that worth to you? Because you are capable of doing way more than you think you can. That's like, so whatever, like, I love Grant Cardone. I love his 10X concept, right? Like whatever you think you can, like then 10X it, and then go figure out what's the price tag, what's the effort that takes, and go lean into it. Like if you're going to do it, like do it all the way and expect big things. This vehicle is built to do so much more than just like pay for tuition. Like, so dream big on like your life and then figure out how this opportunity that is meant to be a time and season of your life can get you there that much faster. And then go pay the price that's necessary to make it. That's what I got for you guys today. Any questions for me? I'll do a little Q&A if you want. Or if you're like, man, this was way more than half an hour and I'm ready to go, like we can be done. So are there any questions? Okay, then with that, thank you very much for being here and have a great night.